Hi friends, I want to start off this video by saying that if you have not already, everyone in the world should watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine because it's great. I'm so happy. I love this show so much. Yes, I want to start off with that tidbit because it's very important to me. And I was just watching it and it's great. Season 7 is doing amazing so far. Anyway, my name's Jessie. I have 2 hair colors. I don't know what that means. And we're back. Today I'm here to tell you about all of the books that I read in January of 2020. In the month of January, I read a total of 8 books, 3 of which were audiobooks, 2 were poetry, and 1 was a graphic novel. So now we're going to talk about them. The first book I read, absolutely was obsessed with at the time, was Tell Me How You Really Feel by Aminah Safi. And oh my god, I love this book so much. It's like, in short, my elevator pitch for this book is if Rory Gilmore and Paris Geller were 2 brown girls who fell in love. That's what's happened. It's Rory and Paris falling in love. Because literally, the dedication in this book, my favorite dedication I've ever read in a book, it says, for Amy Sherman Palladino, thank you for never giving Rory Gilmore a decent boyfriend. She's always had Paris. And like, it's true. It's so good. Okay, so this book is about these 2 girls, Rachel and Sanne, who go to the same high school, and Sanne is this preppy, like, good student, cheerleader, all around, people like her, she's popular. And Rachel is a film student, she's like a perfectionist, and she kind of has this default that everyone's out to get her, so she's very defensive in the beginning, and she like tries to protect herself. She's very guarded. So one day they're both walking through campus and Sanne like sees that Rachel's about to fall or something while she's holding a bunch of film equipment, so she tries to help her by like calling out to her, but then when she calls out, Rachel trips and she breaks a camera, or she doesn't break it, but like the body cracks. So when she returns it, the teacher's just like, hey, what the fuck? And she's like, it wasn't my fault. And the teacher's like, well, now she has to help you finish your project because you're behind and you need to graduate. And Rachel's like, I don't want her help. She's a cheerleader. She's popular. Because that's who Rachel thinks Sanne is. And we're all just like, no, she's not. Because Rachel's Paris. But we love Paris. Rachel decides that she is going to ask Sanne to play the lead in her senior film, which is a retelling of Helen of Troy, and then Sanne is just, she's like, I'll think about it, and she reads the script and she's just like, why do you hate her so much? And then Rachel's like, whoa. And she has like an epiphany. I feel like I'm giving away a lot of the story. I don't want to give away a lot of the story. It's really good, it's funny, it's well written. This is Aminah Safi's 2nd book. Why do I have this bookmark in the middle of it? I finished it. I started reading her 1st book, but that one, like, the language is weird. Like, I was reading it and I was very confused about what was going on and where we were and stuff. And then I just started reading something else, so I didn't get through that one. But then I'll go back to it eventually. But yes, Tell Me How You Really Feel. I have been obsessed with this book for so long. It took me forever to read it, to like get to read it, because I'm the worst. Anyway, but that's not relevant. It's so good. Look at this cover. Look at this cover. It's beautiful. And it's just so good and I love it so much and everybody should read it. The next book I read was Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy by Reid, Terciero, and Indigo. Sorry if I'm pronouncing any of those names wrong. It's a graphic novel modern retelling of Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and I read this in January because I really wanted to see the new movie Little Women that had come out with Emma Watson and Timothée Chalamet and Florence Pugh, but I didn't get to see it while I was in theaters. I'm so upset, and my friend sent it to me, but I still haven't watched it yet because I can't tell you. I just can't. But I found this at Target one day and I read it and it's so good. I really like it. I cried a lot. I don't know exactly the original story of Little Women because I haven't seen either of the movies and I never read the book. This is the only iteration of the story that I know. And I feel like in the original story it's a little bit darker. This one like has more of a happy ending, which is good, which is nice. First time I heard about it was on that episode of Friends with Joey and Rachel, and if you watch Friends, I feel like you know what I'm talking about, and that's why I didn't want to read it, because I was like, oh, that's gonna make me really sad. And this one did make me really sad, and I was afraid, but then it got better. Spoiler alert, this is like Little Women light, so things are nicer, things are happier. I feel like it has a happier ending. It still makes you cry. The next book I read in January was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I listened to that on audiobook, and oh my god, it was so good. Taylor Jenkins Reid just has a great writing style. Like last year I read Daisy Jones and the Six, and I listened to it on audiobook, and I was sobbing. I was absolutely obsessed with it. It's so good. And I heard a lot of people who talked about how much they love that book, talking about how they also love The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I was like, okay, I want to read this, because like I want to know about her 7 husbands too, because tea. Hope my tea's not cold. I have tea over here and it's cold. Okay, it's not super cold yet, but I have to drink it because it'll get cold. So The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's about this young woman. She's like in her 30s, I think. She works at a magazine, and she gets this opportunity to interview this woman named Evelyn Hugo, an older movie star. She was Hollywood golden age type, who like doesn't really do a lot of interviews. She doesn't talk to magazines. She doesn't talk about her life. So this opportunity to have this magazine interview with her is like a big deal, and everyone's just like, why is she only gonna talk to this woman? She's not one of the best reporters. She's not one of the most famous magazine writers or whatever. But she's like, no, I'll only do this if I can talk to her. So this journalist goes to Evelyn Hugo's house. Evelyn's like, I'll talk to you. I'll only talk to you. I'll only give you this interview. But I don't want it to be a magazine article. I want you to write my biography. The journalist is like, why me? Why are you doing this now? Are you dying? Are you sick? When am I allowed to release it? And she's asking a lot of questions because people ask questions. The journalists ask questions. And Evelyn's just like, let me just tell you my story. Relax. You will learn things you need to know when you need to know them. It'll be fine. So basically they're like, okay. And they do it. Like the chapters go back and forth between Evelyn narrating and telling her own story and the journalist talking about her life and her recent divorce, as well as her going to Evelyn's house or leaving Evelyn's house and talking to her boss about the magazine, because her boss doesn't know that Evelyn doesn't actually want to do a magazine interview. She wants to write a book with the woman. So it's a very interesting contrast, and in the world of the book, the whole thing with Evelyn Hugo is that she won't talk to anyone, and she's been married to 7 times, but no one knows who the true love of her life was or something like that. I don't remember the exact phrasing. She goes in depth and they find out who the true love of her life is, and all of her husbands, and what her life was like, what her marriages were like, why she got married 7 times, why she divorced all of these men, what happened in between, who like she talked about her daughter. It was so good. It was really good. And I listened to an audiobook, and it was narrated by 3 different women. I don't remember any of their names, but one is the journalist, one is Evelyn, and one woman, I believe, narrates the few like snippets they have of headlines and news articles about Evelyn in her golden age, like about like in the golden age of Hollywood when she was a movie star and she was actually acting and stuff. It's just so beautifully written, and their voices are so nice to listen to. It was great. Get on that. The next 2 books I read were poetry books. The first one was What I Mean When I Say I Miss You, Love You, and Fuck You, Poetry and Prose to Heal the Human Soul by Robert M. Drake. And I picked this up at a little like gift shop store type thing I just thought the cover was cute. I like books that have profanity in the title. I never know how to talk about poetry books to people. I don't know. It was good. It was short. It was fun. I liked like all of these tabs were poems that I really liked or really connected to. I'm Not Scared, Love More Please, Strong Women. Oh, Strong Women. Good time all around. Those are some of the ones that I really liked from this book. It's short, it's cute, it's fun, it's deep. Like there's a lot of stuff that covers a lot of different human emotions. I guess we can say that. And there's just a lot of things to connect to on this. And on the back it says Stay Beautiful. We love that. I would definitely recommend picking this up if you're into poetry. I never thought I would be a poetry person, because when I was little I hated poetry. I hated reading it, I hated writing it. But now in the age of like Instagram poets and letting them publish books and Andrew McNeil and button poetry. I love it. Speaking of button poetry, my next book was If My Body Could Speak by Blythe Baird. I read this book last year and then I reread it again in January, and I don't know. I just really enjoy this collection because Blythe Baird like goes back across her whole life and talks about her mind and her body and her soul's interconnectedness and their relationship with one another, as well as their relationship with outside forces, like what she felt like as a teenager and what she felt like at school and what she was going through as a teenager, and her relationship with her mom and what her mom feels like and says about her body and how she feels about her body and the journey she's gone on with her body when she was young and she was insecure, and how she overcame that insecurity. And sometimes it comes back, but things you can do not fall into the like bad things she's done as a teenager because she wasn't comfortable in the body she was in. And it's just really, really good. I also tabbed some of my favorite poems in this book. In poetry, I tab them with like black post-its. I don't know why. Lipstick is one of the ones that's really short and it floats around Instagram a lot. So if you've seen a picture of it, it's really good. Pruning into Art is great. Remember, it's not, I don't know if you would call this a poem because it's not formatted like the other poems. It doesn't have an official title or anything. It says, remember, you did the best you could in the situation you were in with the materials you had. And I just think that's a really nice thing to think about. Like, I'm an actor and sometimes I go on auditions and sometimes I'm just like, I leave and I'm just like, oh, I could have done this, or I could have done this, or I should have done this, or this is a choice that I could have made but didn't. And sometimes you have to just take a breath and be like, I did the best I could with what I had in the moment that I was in the room with all those people staring at me. And sometimes you don't get the part, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Things happen and it's fine. Theories about the universe. That one also is going around on Instagram and Tumblr. It's on Tumblr. That screenshot of the Tumblr post is floating around Facebook because that's where I saw it. Because it's the one where she's talking about her dog and how her dog wants to eat her peanut butter chocolate chip bagel, and she's like, I can't give this to you because it has chocolate in it. And she's like, the dog probably doesn't understand, but I'm doing what's best for her. And she's like, maybe the universe is doing that for me even though I don't understand. And someone commented on it and they're like, universe, what's in your mouth? It's funny. Oh, it was really funny. This is a great poetry collection. It's pretty short. It gets a little dark, so trigger warnings probably. I don't remember exactly, and I don't know if she puts trigger warnings in them. I would definitely say there are some in here for, I believe, body image and possibly eating disorders. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, so that was If My Body Could Speak. The next book I read a physical novel. It was Music of What Happens by Bill Konigsberg, and I really liked this book. It wasn't one of my favorites, but it was fun. I liked the characters, I liked the story. The Music of What Happens is a story about two young men, Max and Jordan, who go to school together, and they're not really friends, but they have a class together. And through some miracle of fate, they end up having to work at Jordan's late father's food truck together. Jordan's father passed away and him and his mom are in a lot of debt. So they brought back the dad's food truck to try and make some money. But the mom kind of freaks out on their first day and she abandons it. And so Max is like, I'm a good cook, I'm gonna help you. And it's kind of just like about their journey with each other and them trying to figure out how to run this food truck and going around and making money, trying to learn how to be chefs and how to run a food truck and how to deal with Yelpers. I think there's like one, I don't know. But then it also goes into their personal lives, and as two, it says it in the book jacket, they're both gay. And obviously there's gonna be some kind of romantic storyline. And it goes into like how they both deal with their sexuality in terms of themselves and in terms of their friends. I will say that there is a trigger warning in this book for sexual assault, handled in an interesting way. I don't know how to say that. I definitely thought this book was gonna be about music, and it's not about music at all, so want you all to know that. Sometimes Jordan makes me want to like shake because he just spends so much time in his own head, and as an outside reading from his perspective you can get why he thinks like that, but from an outside perspective and also knowing Max's perspective and thoughts about Jordan, you're just like, you just want to be like, hey, it's not that bad, he doesn't hate you, calm down, stop freaking out like this. But you can't, and it's a little frustrating, but it's okay. I really liked it. Would highly recommend. I read 2 more books after that. I listened to them both on audiobook. One of them I do have the physical copy of. which is Supermarket by Bobby Hall. I decided to listen to this one on audiobook though because he narrates it himself. I know him as Logic as a rapper, so it's weird to call him Bobby Hall like that. He narrates it himself and it's nice to listen to. But yeah, when I was listening to it, like right off the bat, I was like, this is some weird shit. And then a few chapters and I was just like, oh, is this gonna be like a Fight Club thing? You can just tell something was weird about Frank. It's not Fight Club, but it's kind of similar. It's about this kid named Flynn who was recently broken up with. He's depressed. He wants to write a novel, but he sucks at follow through. He works at a supermarket and he finds this girl there and he like falls in love with her. And he also meets this guy there named Frank and he's like, this is the guy, I'm gonna write my book about him. But then Frank kind of like ruins his life. Genre falls into, it says a darkly funny psychological thriller. Supermarket is a gripping exploration into madness and creativity. Who knew you could find sex, drugs, and murder all in aisle 9? I enjoyed this book. I feel like, I don't know if I'd enjoy it more if I read it physically. And it's short, it's not long, like teeny tiny. And the last book that I read, well, I listened to it, was The Girl He Used to Know by Tracey Garvis Graves. I listened to it on audiobook and oh my god, I fell in love with this book. I can't even tell you what. I just really liked the story and I really liked the characters. It's about these two people, Annika and Jonathan, who were together in college and they were like in love with each other. They were each other's best friends. Annika has autism spectrum disorder. She's on the spectrum. They don't talk about it a lot in the book. They don't talk about it for most of the, until almost like 2/3 of the way into the book. No one actually mentions it. It's just the signs are there and you can kind of, if you know, I don't know a lot about ASD. I know a little bit. My sister is a teacher. She teaches kids with ASD, so I know a little, teeny little bit. Don't know a ton, but reading it, you like the symptoms are there. The symptoms are written for you to be able to see, to infer it. So you can kind of tell, but no one officially talks about it. But Jonathan kind of gets her, who she is and what she needs. He understands her love language, if you will. So they're together in college and then they break up right after, like around the time Jonathan graduates, before Annika graduates. And they don't explain why at first. But then when they're like in their 30s, they run into each other one day in like Chicago. I think that's where they live now. And they run into each other and they're like, do you want to go get lunch or whatever? And the other one's like, yeah. And so they start hanging out again and they start talking and he takes her to this like work event and they kind of know that they're feeling things for each other again. The book goes back and forth between 3 different perspectives. It's Annika's perspective in college, Annika's perspective now, and Jonathan's perspective now. When Annika's in college, she tells the entire story from the beginning of her in college when she wants to leave but she decides to stay, and Annika now and her perspective on their budding rekindling, I guess you can call it. I don't know. And Jonathan doesn't get to narrate as much, which isn't bad. His narration now in the present of the book is a little mean sometimes because of how they broke up when they were in college. He has this like guardedness, but he's still always ready to protect her. But yeah, his chapters feel in my memory are a little bit harsh. The last like third of that book is not what I expected it to be at all, and I'm not going to talk about what it was. I listened to it on audiobook and the audiobook is really nice. Like the narrators they picked good narrators for that. I would recommend. Those are all of the books I read in January. And I would totally recommend all of them. There's a little something for everybody. There's some YA, there's some adult fiction, there's some poetry, there's a graphic novel. What more could you want? Don't say fantasy or sci-fi. See, this is what happens when I do things that are not scripted. I don't know what to say and then I just... But like, there's nothing wrong with that. That was hard. I don't know. I should probably take notes on books as I'm reading. I always tell myself that so I can do this, but then I'm just like, what am I gonna, I don't know what I want to write. I don't want to take notes about. Just let me talk and flounder my way through. But anyway, that's all I have for this video. All my social medias will be down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I still haven't figured out a proper way to start or end these. But that's fine, we'll get there. I'll figure it out at some point. I'll see you soon with another one. Bye.